What's up, guys? My name's William King Barnett, and this is You Can Do It Too, the series where I make you realize that you don't need to spend thousands of dollars at a studio with professionals, and you don't need decades of experience or expensive equipment to make good music and professional sounding music. Anyone can do it, and you can do it too. And quite cheaply, I may add. There are many ways in which I went from A to B, and today we're going to be talking about reverb. What is reverb, you may ask? Reverb is the idea of creating resonance. You notice how when you go to a concert, instruments, they don't just fade out. They have an echo almost. That's reverb. So reverb is the idea of adding resonance to your music, and it also gives the illusion that everything was recorded in the same space. Ideally, if you were working with all live musicians in a studio, that would all be in the same space. But since we're working with MIDI and different kinds of MIDI, we want to make it all sound like it was recorded together in the same space. And that's what reverb accomplishes. To give you a taste of what reverb sounds like versus no reverb, here's the piece you heard at the beginning, The Pirates of Jersey Shore, first with no reverb. And now with reverb. Another example of using reverb is I can make my voice sound like I was filming in a tunnel, like the New York subway tunnel. Oh my god. Echo! 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 Okay, so actually echo is not reverb. That's a separate feature that we won't get into today. But I can also make it sound like it was recorded in a studio or a concert hall. So there's a lot of fun to be had with reverb, and there are different kinds of reverb. If you use Logic, which I do, Logic has a few different types of reverb, as you can see here. Chromaverb, N-verb, Silververb, all these different types of reverbs, and you can create different types of rooms, big rooms, small rooms. You can also adjust how much or how little reverb you want. The biggest plugin of reverb we're going to discuss today is the Space Designer. Like I said, reverb is the idea of creating an artificial space. And Space Designer helps you do just that. They have different kinds of spaces and different sizes of spaces. And you can go and scroll through and explore the different rooms, big rooms, small rooms, such as cathedrals, vocal booths in studios, drum booths, all manner of different types of spaces for whatever you're trying to do. And you can adjust the amount of reverb that you want. You can also bypass the reverb if you want to hear what something sounds like without the reverb. Now, adding reverb to an instrument this way is what's called insert reverb. The other kind of reverb is send reverb. If you've ever heard of a bus, bussing is grouping sets of instruments together and putting them to the same reverb as well as other effects. Bussing helps create the idea that all these instruments were recorded in the same space. I would recommend bussing treble instruments together and bass instruments together on a separate bus. You can have bus 1, bus 2, bus 3, bus 4, bus 5 to infinity. Now, why should you bus treble and bass instruments differently? Well, we will be getting into that on the next episode. So like a musical instrument, stay tuned. With send reverb, you have to adjust the amount of reverb that you want individually with each instrument, as you can see I'm doing here. When using send reverb, I would recommend first playing with the dry versus wet settings and putting the mix up to 0 just to see how it sounds, and then turning it down to between -5 and -8. I generally put it at -8, but that's just me. And it's up to you to determine how much or how little reverb you want or need for each individual instrument. You have some degree of freedom in how much or how little reverb you add to different instruments. When reverbing drums, though, it is recommended that you actually put your kick drum line on a separate track from the rest of the drum beat, as you really don't want any reverb on the kick drum, but you want reverb on everything else. Now here's why you should use send reverb instead of insert reverb, because insert reverb adds a sense of distance that you don't want. Send reverb, especially for things like vocals, makes it sound closer, makes the singer sound closer to you, as well as other instruments, especially solo instruments. Okay, now actually I'm breaking my own rule here, because this is an example of insert reverb, as I felt like for this French horn, the insert reverb was more effective. But as you can kind of hear, it does create a sense of distance. It makes the horn sound not as close as it could be, so it is generally better to use send reverb versus insert reverb. The only time I would say you might want to use insert reverb over send reverb is when you're doing things with percussion, like anything bongos or drums, things that have a high impact. For that, you might want to do insert reverb, as it'll have more of an impact on that, but generally send reverb is the way to go versus insert. Another thing worth discussing when it comes to reverb is the music sample library company East West. They have a Spaces plugin. Spaces allows you to further reverb your tracks with a wide array of different spaces and existing spaces, such as the Sydney Opera House or the Disney Concert Hall in LA. All these different kinds of spaces, and you can actually make your tracks sound like they were recorded in these very real spaces. If you have the money and you want to experiment more with reverb, I would definitely recommend looking into that. In this episode, we've barely scratched the surface of what reverb is. I usually stick with the standard large and bright, which is the default setting of the Space Designer. But if you really want to have fun with reverb, I would recommend experimenting with the different types of reverb, even if you don't end up using them in your final masters, just to hear what they sound like and get exposure to them. They will help you in the long run as you get familiar with the different types of reverb that exist. By utilizing tools like reverb and also EQ, which we will get into on the next episode, you can make high quality professional sounding tracks without professional equipment, without working in a studio, without calling on professional mixers, and you really don't need to spend a lot of money to make your tracks sound super amazing. You can do it too. Thanks for watching. If you liked this episode, please like and subscribe to my channel for more tips and insights into the vast and complex world of music production, which is evolving every day. On the next episode, we will be discussing EQ, another important thing to know when it comes to bussing your instruments. So, like a musical instrument, stay tuned. Lots of love, y'all.